Hello, everyone. We're going to get started here. Welcome, my friends, to the District216 Marquee event. Yeah, round of applause. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Kat Walsh. I'm going to be your host. I'm going to moderate. And at the end of the night, I'm going to be performing a DJ set under my music alias, Kat's Meow. Before I get into some of these technical announcements, I just want to thank everyone for coming out to this one specifically. I know when I first heard the topic of this event, I was like, oh, okay. Why don't we bring up the two topics that most people are afraid of, right? We talk about death and psychedelics. And what better way to face fear but to bring it to light and just talk about it, to see it from a new perspective. And instead of having it under the bed, scaring us, just shine a light to see that that's just part of the process. And so as we go into some of these spaces, we're going to start with this education, and then we're going to turn it into a celebration, because when we're here, this is our time to celebrate. I don't know if this is going to be an appropriate time to be like YOLO, but my invitation to everyone here tonight is to find your edge. Okay, you know, like if you're shy and you don't typically come up and talk to people, this might be the night to try it, right? If you're usually somebody that like wants to dance, but you don't understand how people can actually like move in their body without being completely self-conscious, just try it. All I know is when I see another body next to me, whatever they're doing on the dance floor, I am so stoked by it. I am not looking at like their dance moves. So that's my invitation for you all here today. And now, before I get into a lot of announcements, all right, buckle in, got like maybe 5 minutes. Who's here's first time at District216?
Wow.
Solid. Okay. Who's here's first time at an event talking about psychedelics at all? Nice. Death and psychedelics. I love that. You're like, we're going to dive right in to the topics. Welcome. All right, first things first, you guys heard me talk about this, right? Lux Lodo is something that we're beta testing tonight. This is a new technology that basically is going to create a synchronized experience when we're on the dance floor tonight. So if you have not downloaded that yet, don't worry, I will come and walk up to you individually and ask if it is on your phone yet. So just be ready. I'm just kidding. Maybe. I don't know. Yeah, QR code on the screen. This is your moment here. The second thing is there are hats. District216 has hats. Jacob Tell, right here, our chief dreamer, has a hat from District216, and it's dope. They're $25. They take almost all forms of payment. So if you feel inspired, get a hat. There are also elixirs here in the back. Teddy and Sunstone Cannabis have a new beverage that is a functional mushroom beverage to try. And then we also have Tom's Elixir Wells microdose mocktails. And I just went over to talk to Tom, and I said, what are we talking about with microdose? And he said, I have a variety here of different molecules. So talk to him, see what feels right for you. And remember always to moderate, right? We can always go low and, what is it? Go slow and go low, go slow? All right. You can always add, basically, you know what I mean? You can't delete. Dinner and a show. Okay, so if you have not eaten dinner yet, grab that. I think they'll be serving probably up until the fireside chat, and then we start to break that down. We're going to have 2 fireside chats tonight. Then we're going to go into a panel, which is going to be a lot of fun and really interesting. And then we're going to move it into the music part of the night. So DJ Meggie, that's right here. Whoop, whoop. She is going to be bringing us into a new groove tonight. And she's going to guide us into it, right? She's not going to like hit us over the head with like a slapping house song, but I will. So she's going to like bring us into the energy of then celebration. We also have amazing projection mountain that you don't see yet, but you will. It's literally, look up in the trees tonight, look on the floor, look up here. It is literally everywhere. Shout out to our 5 projection artists. We have Tim, Amun, Udu, and Tay. And we also have Michael Strauss back there, who's going to be projection mapping all over this one. So when the lights go down, it's going to get funky. We got a workshop upstairs as well. The workshop is from 8 to 9 p.m. and it's called Collaborating with Everyday Dev by Jaclyn Vouthouris. She'll be up there, and she's also going to be doing the fireside chat. So you're going to be able to get a feel for her, and then you can do the workshops tonight. We have a terpene lounge upstairs. So this is a alcohol-free zone, but we're still here to have a good time. So if you like cannabis, you will meet friends up here, okay? And there's also, as we mentioned, sampling in the beverage area. And also, we have 15 sponsors inside. This is part of the passport. So just go around, talk to all of them. They all have something different that they are sharing with us all tonight. What else do I have for us? Shift chair experience. This is also upstairs. This is a zero gravity shift chair that has all these microprocessors. And I always like to say, if you stop at the terpene lounge and then you sit in this chair, you might never come back. You just might float away, and we'll have to ask you gently to give somebody else a turn. So I'm almost there. All right, so we got parking lot activities as well. We've got creme in the back. Right here, it's a coffee and mushroom with crema. It's delicious, by the way. We have Dream Bear healing for massage. Where's Dream Bear set up? Right here. All right, we're sampling. We're getting body work. We're having a good time tonight. Okay, and then we have Lily Sky face painting here. Come look at this beautiful young woman here. Right? We're going for themes, folks. Yeah. This could be you. Right over here. We have memberships, VIP gift bags. If you were on the fence about becoming a member here at District 216, this might be your night because we have an amazing VIP gift bag that you can get tonight if you sign up. It's also what keeps this going. Jacob, right here, I think I'm bouncing around. Should I do my community? This is his 155th event in under 3 years. 155. And this man has a full-time job. It's not this. I was like, do you sleep? He's like, 4 hours a night. I was like, that's right. If you ever work with Jacob, you'll get emails at literally 4:30 in the morning. And he's like expecting an answer. I was like, really?
You did,
He's the best. I just want to thank the community here.
Marquee.
We have Boreal Anais's Hope Grows Wild mural behind me. This beautiful thing has not always been here. This is brand new. Murals always trip me out to get the scale like this. Incredible. We also have her art hanging inside. We've got Robbie who's doing live painting upstairs. We have Alter Beast Experience and Decelerator Lightsmith. We've got Udute. Again, we have Michael Strauss in the back. Full Moon Audio for making us all sound awesome up here. Mike Wald, Luke Archer, Emma Claire, thank you. Oh my God, my girl Kate Kubiak, who puts this on, and Luya Barker, thank you. They're producing this event. I always say a good event is when you don't know why everything just transitions so easily into the next. If you don't see mistakes happening, it's because it's being managed very well. I think, we got one more. Okay, I got one more slide for us. One more slide. We've got upcoming events, and it's not just here at District. Like I mentioned, this is a 155th event. We were also just in Denver for Psychedelic Conference for not one, but two. And we had sold out over 1,100 tickets. It was a huge, huge success. And this was outside of the community, right? It's one thing. I see so many wonderful, familiar faces here. To get 1,100 people to say, I don't know what this is about, but okay. And everybody made a lot of new friends. So we have another event coming up here in October. October 14th, we're bringing a super psychedelic group called Martian Circus to Santa Barbara. It's black lights. It's as quintessential psychedelic vibes as you get. All right. So if you just want to get into some, I don't know, just very creative experience, it's coming up here at October 14th. On November 8th, we've booked two of his favorite groups, tribute bands for Grateful Dead, which is called Jax Plays Dead, and one for The Great Divide, which is a tribute to Fish. I love this for him because those are his two favorites. And we took that away from, we used to do like fish cover bands here, and then we ended up being like, should we do house music? And we like house music, but I love that he's getting this back because that is his love, and this is his baby, And then December 3rd, we have we're going to be at MJ BizCon, and there is going to be a brunch and an evening mixer there. So that's going to be on December 3rd. And then there's going to be 2 marquee events next year. May 16th, there's going to be Addiction and Psychedelics. And then on October 10th, we have Athletes and Psychedelics. And that, my friends, is all I got for you right now. All right? So we have a video that we're going to put on next, and then I'm going to invite up John to do a grounding meditation. Thank you all so much, and welcome to District 216.
Welcome to District 216. We're a community of like-minded individuals, part club, part movement, where we come together to forge a new path where psychedelics and the arts meet to reveal healing and wellness. District 216 is grounded in human connection and the collective unconscious. Hi, I'm Jacob Tell, the chief dreamer of District 216. For our local community, we host weekly immersive evenings at the District House and quarterly transformative Marquee event gatherings. Both of these event types are hosted here in Santa Barbara. And for our online members, we offer a growing library of educational content, our Change Your Lens series, discounts to our wellness concierge service, as well as access to members from our global community. Some call us the Psychedelic Club, and in part that's true. But really, we're a social club for thinkers, creators, and trailblazers. We're a hub for creativity, wellness, and consciousness expansion, with psychedelics as one of the vehicles for healing and transformation. Seekers of all ages and backgrounds gather here to learn, share, and grow. No experience required. I created District 216 because I saw what was missing in the world and in myself. We're standing at the edge of a new era where connection opens the heart, creativity expands the mind, and healing in community is once again normalized. Community is our medicine. District 216 exists for transformation and for you. It's a place to exchange ideas and help shape the mindful growth of this movement. When you join, you help to normalize safe, responsible, therapeutic psychedelic use, create spaces for vulnerability and fearless conversation, build culture and influence policy decisions, and push for legalization and integration of psychedelic use in society. You belong here. This isn't just a membership. It's a movement. It's a platform. Your new home. We invite you to explore. Welcome to District 216.
In India, Shiva is seen as the god of change. And when we think of life, death, transition, big change. And so this honors change, kind of opening up, moving towards it, embracing it. If you were told to mouth the words in kindergarten, grammar school, it's okay to sing here. Let the sound come out, okay? Because it's really about heart. We'll start off call and response, and then we'll all join in together. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Namah Shivaya. Om 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 Namah Shivaya. Everybody, Om Namah Shivaya. 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 Last time. Om Namah Shivaya. 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 Om Namah Shivaya.
What?
Hey everybody, welcome. I'm not just a video, I'm a human. I figured since I was doing this chat with Jaclyn that we would play, Luke, who's on cameras back there, edited that video, and it was the first time I talked to a teleprompter, and I said, you know what, I'll be much more succinct and less rambling if you watch 2 minutes of me than 10 minutes of me. But here I am again, so welcome.
Yeah, thank you. I'm Jaclyn Vouthouris. I'm a ceremony guide here in the local community. I also do a lot of facilitation work with leaders and builders who are standing at a threshold moment, a death rebirth process. I'm helping them navigate that. So, thank you, Jacob, for letting me be here with you. Isn't it so good to see him out from behind the camera a little bit?
My first content contribution in 155 events. Here I am.
Yeah. Well, the reason why I wanted to, I basically begged Jacob to let me come up here and talk with you all first tonight because I wanted to set the scene for those of us, especially that aren't at an end of life moment ourselves, or we don't have that in the immediate vicinity of us with a loved one. And so how do we make the topic of death relevant for us? And for me, the answer to that question is it's around us all the time. It's an everyday thing, whether it's the change of the seasons or the ending of a relationship or the closing of a major professional chapter. So we constantly have these opportunities to apprentice with death, to learn from it, to gain a little bit of comfort and familiarity with it, and really be able to use that process to learn the gifts that are waiting for us in it. And so the two questions that I really want to frame our talk and this whole evening with are, one, what if death was our ally? And two, if that's true, if death was our ally, what are the gifts that are waiting for us here, and how can we really lean into this process and see what's there? Now, this doesn't mean that death doesn't suck. I'm not trying to say that at all. Obviously, death can be brutal, but what I'm trying to say here is that it can also be beautiful. And how can we lean into this process with agency to really play the full spectrum and to feel and see what's here for us in a way that lets us mine for the pearls, or be able to take the wisdom that's here for us and to find some comfort in this process. Irish poet and philosopher John O'Donohue says, "What you encounter, recognize, or discover depends to a large degree on the quality of your approach. When we approach with reverence, great things decide to approach us." And so my prayer for this is that we can really see how we can engage with this topic all the time, and to let that take us through the rest of the evening. So with that context, Jacob, thank you. Thank you for being the brave soul to walk through this process.
Yes. 2 words: vulnerability and surrender.
Yeah, absolutely. Can you share an example of an everyday death that has shown up on your doorstep in the last few years?
Sure. So I figured, since I probably am a workaholic, I have 3 companies here, I was going to bring a career-related everyday death story into the fold. It was a few years ago. I run a branding and marketing company here out of this building, my day job, and called Oniricom. I've been running it for 24 years, and we've had 2 amazing business partners, myself, the 3 of us as a trio, for 2 decades have been running what has evolved through, we went through 9/11 together, the 2008-2009 financial crisis, obviously COVID most recently, and all sorts of ups and downs in between. There's been a constant reimagining as technology landscapes have changed. You can imagine when we started, there was no social media and we were doing digital marketing. So we had to be very adaptable. As a team and as a leadership team, we had to be extremely flexible and kind of, gentle with each other. So to cut to the chase, it was around the time of the pandemic, in the midst of that. And one of the partners of mine is a childhood friend. And he got an opportunity from one of our amazing international clients in Australia to go and continue the work that we were doing. We were calling it Place Intelligence. It's like a digital geo kind of nerdy thing I won't go into. But it was making us quite a bit of money. And he got an opportunity to go to Australia and take the IP and kind of leave in the middle of the pandemic and move across into the Southern Hemisphere. So we'll pause there because I know you have more questions.
Yeah, so that's pretty brutal. What was the hole that was left there in the immediate wake of his leaving, and what were the fires that you had to put out because of it?
Yeah, so we had to figure out, first of all, what were we going to do to fill that void of revenue, because a bunch of revenue was leaving. The IP itself, we were no longer going to do a competing thing. So our deliverables, our capabilities shifted. And we went from the 3 amigos to 2 of us. So as a leadership team, the entire dynamic and structure instantly changed. And there wasn't a whole lot of premeditation as a trio. We definitely had like kind of one-on-one talks strategically, but in terms of the 3 of us coming together, it just sort of happened.
Yeah, and you also had to let go of staff and stuff, right?
As a result, we let go of staff, we tightened the belt in all sorts of ways. There was a pandemic going on. There's this thing called AI that was coming out and changing the landscape more in terms of marketing. So you throw every variable you could at it.
Yeah, and that must have personally hit with a very dear childhood friend kind of taking this path.
Yes.
Yeah, and so, okay, so all of this happens. The immediate fires are put out, and now you have a moment to take a breath, and with intention, you're sort of at a choice point here. There are 2 different paths that you can go down. Can you tell us a little bit about each of those paths and what you picked?
Sure. So, I mean, one path is we talk to the attorneys, and they like to sue people and they like to make money off of other people's decisions. And it would have taken a lot of time and energy and effort, from us to go down that road. And who knows, if we would have even been successful in that effort. So we intentionally decided to, hunker down and reimagine what it is that we could continue doing with a smaller team, with fewer resources, and with one less partner.
Yeah. And when we've prepped this a little bit before, the other thing that I heard you say was that you didn't want to put your time and energy down that path. You wanted to use it to create something different. And so that's really the point that I want people to get here, is that Jacob took a moment to find agency and decide how he wanted to work with this death that showed up on his doorstep, that wasn't his choice, that really fucking sucked, to see, like, where can the silver lining be in this, or what can I get out the other side? And this makes me think of a quote from Francis Weller in The Wild Edge of Sorrow, where he says, "We are most alive at the threshold between loss and revelation. Every loss ultimately opens the way for a new encounter." And so in that hole, what came and filled it?
Man. Well, at the same time, actually, more context. People, especially my partner, Carrie, she loves context. This is for you. My dad was unfortunately diagnosed with a rare blood cancer and was going down his journey for the last year of his life. And it was around that time where I really started to kind of feel like his value system kind of channel in. And I needed to start a psychedelic social club. Clearly, look at all of you here. So out of this came, my reflection of like pandemic. We're all in isolation. There's a kind of an epidemic of isolation and disconnection. And so I've always loved building community. I've always loved bringing people together around cannabis events, and I love psychedelics, obviously, art, music. And so, it was time to actually think about what I wanted to do to be more in alignment and to try to bring my gifts out to the world to where there could be as much value provided as possible.
And we're all here tonight because of it. Isn't that great? So how has apprenticing with this death changed your opinion of both death and life and work? Where has this brought you on the other side?
I mean, we all hear about, the set and setting and, having to surrender in these psychedelic experiences and in life. It was a big reinforcement of that concept of actually, you got to make lemonades out of lemon. How many isms can we bring into this? But we made some lemonade and surrendered to what was provided, what variables were presented. And it gave me a chance to pause and really imagine, like, if I was to restart this, what would I do? Truly, what would I really do? What would I want to do?
Mm-hmm. I've also heard you say that you are living now more in alignment than you ever have been in your life.
Yes, I thought, I love my day job. I love being creative and working with creative people and bringing some good into the world, hopefully at the same time. But until really starting District216, I didn't know what it was to truly live in alignment. So that's been the biggest gift.
Beautiful. Yeah. Celebration for that, for sure. Is there anything else you want to share with us about this journey that you've been on?
I mean, the people, obviously. I think there's like this, just a like-minded connection, this mycelium network that continues to grow. Kat alluded to it earlier. We were in Denver for the Psychedelic Science Conference 2 months ago. And I mean, literally 1,100 people showed up, and maybe like 50 of them had been to one of our events at most before. So you're talking about 1,000 new people that took a chance to come in, had the best time. And I mean, just showed me that, like, I got to get the fuck out of Santa Barbara more. No, so we're going to go put more events on elsewhere. We're going to do Oakland next year and possibly Austin and Vegas as well. So, yeah.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much, Jacob. Thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for everything that whole birthed and what it's created for us here in this community tonight, in this city. Thank you. Yeah.
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah. And so my invitation for all of us tonight is to keep listening for this. Through all of the talks that are here tonight, where did somebody choose agency to co-create, to collaborate with death in a way that helped open up something new for them or help them see a gift that they might not have seen before in all of this? And if our little dialogue here sparked some interest for you, I'll be hosting 2 workshops. They're the same workshop, just 2 different time slots at 8 and 9 p.m. tonight upstairs. You could sign up, and we'll be basically going through very similar prompts here that Jacob and I just went through so that you can work with an everyday death that might be on your doorstep right now and find ways to co-create with it with agency. And then one final plug is I am very soon about to launch a program on this whole topic called The Unbecoming, which is for renegade leaders and builders that are at a major threshold moment and want to be able to lean into this and use this as a way to alchemize themselves and hopefully come out with something even better on the other side that helps the world, just like Jacob in District 216. So if that interests you, please come find me. I'll help you get signed up for the mailing list. And thank you all for being here tonight. And I look forward to continuing to apprentice with death together. Thank you.
And if you want to do the workshops, there's a clipboard upstairs right outside the ceremony room for 8 o'clock and 9 o'clock. So if you want to go be with Jackie some more tonight, hopefully the DJ music's not too loud while you're doing it, but it's a party. So good luck with that.
Good luck.
Our next fireside chat, this is really special. This kind of, in a way, this event may have been sparked around Jaclyn and Michael, and unfortunately Michael's no longer with us. Well, he's with us, but from the other side. I was fortunate enough, and my partner Carrie, to get to know them very well. And Jaclyn and Michael actually ran psychedelic talks in Santa Barbara before District 216 existed. In a way, the torch was passed to me from them. They were in 2016, 20 to 2018, putting on talks at the Unitarian Church. Some of you may have gone to those. And they were bringing in amazing people from around the country, really inspired kind of this community to have a place to gather. And Michael, as he was going through his cancer journey, which you'll hear about in a moment, leaned into psychedelics and used psychedelics as a tool to deal with anxiety and fear and end of life. So I'm going to play a brief video so we can get a little glimpse of his personality, and then we're going to have Jaclyn and Amy come up to the stage. So thank you everyone for your attention.
What we have here is a beautiful set of ribs that is almost ready to be flipped over here. Put some of that Baby Ray's barbecue sauce on, put it under the broiler, and oh my God, 2 or 3 minutes later, the meat's gonna fall off the bone. And you know what the thing is? We're gonna eat it, and you're not. So, there.
We feel sorry for the
Yeah, that's
folks who are gonna watch this video.
right. We feel sorry for it. Okay, let's see if I can do this without breaking anything. Whoa.
This is Michael Russer, a man who can make you laugh in the kitchen and just as easily invite you into the deepest conversations about life, love, and what it means to be fully present.
Communion wafer is going to have the shape of the marijuana leaf. It's going to be infused with about 150 milligrams of high quality THC, and I guarantee you, if you take one of these puppies, you'll be talking to Jesus.
When faced with a double cancer diagnosis, Michael didn't react. He and Jaclyn chose courage. They chose presence, and they chose to share their journey with the world, founding Santa Barbara Entheomedicine and hosting gatherings to explore plant medicine, consciousness, and healing. Through psychedelics, Michael discovered a pathway to ease pain, faced fear, and embraced death not as an ending, but as another stage of life's great mystery. Michael showed us that humor, presence, and love can walk hand in hand with his mortality, that psychedelics can help us soften into the unknown with grace, and that even in death, joy and connection remain. in loving memory of Michael Russer. Your light lives on. Tonight, Jaclyn carries his spirit forward.
Hey, good evening. Welcome, everyone. It's my great pleasure to be here with Jaclyn tonight and to speak about she and her life partner, Michael, and their journey with psychedelics as healing guides. And I just have a few questions that I thought we talk about. But first off, it was so beautiful to get to know the spirit of Michael through that video. It came really clearly through what a great guy and a wonderful person he was. Have you seen that video before?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
I filmed them.
Okay.
So, hello, everyone. 5-6 years ago, nobody was public with some of the substances that we are lucky to have available for us this evening. People were saying, "Are you sure you want to talk about this? This is Schedule 1." And I said, "Can I talk about it? I don't have to tell them what I do with it, but can I talk about it?" It was a different time, only a few years ago. Let's not take it for granted. Let's share it with our loved ones. These are gifts from the earth. These are gifts from Mother Nature. Thank you for coming tonight. It shows your courage. It shows that Santa Barbara and the world is ready for this. Thank you for being here.
So we were speaking about how, yes, this was a very taboo topic, not widely shared, but how did you come to, as Jacob said, pass the baton to him? Can you talk about kind of the early days of District 216 and your involvement and Michael's involvement with that?
When I met Michael, he already had the first cancer, and we have deep conversations, such as myself, I'm scared shitless of death. I mean, seriously. I was so afraid. I'm a recovered Catholic. So the idea of talking about death was so foreign to me. I didn't even want to go there. And he said to me, "Well, funny you should say that, because I am dying." I remind everybody, we are dying every day a little bit, right? So that's how the conversation went.
Yeah.
Like being real, like going deep with your partner, talking about the things that you fear the most. For me, was the fear imposed by society and religion about death.
That was, and we've had many conversations leading up to this, and that was of a special interest to me because, hi, my name is Amy Slonaker. I'm a board member of Survivorship Collective, which is a group created by cancer survivors, for cancer survivors, that provides access to psilocybin-assisted therapy that is done in retreats in Oregon, all state-regulated and facilities, state-regulated facilitators, and we provide a way for them to come to us and we lead the way in getting them this psychedelic therapy. There's no other group that does that right now. But I'm also a adjunct professor of religion, and so the topic came up of the kind of religious trauma that Michael had, which was part of what made it so difficult for him to face death. And it was because of psychedelics that he was kind of able to get past the kind of brutal Catholic upbringing he had that was all hellfire and brimstone. And it was that had made the passing so difficult for him, and that's what psychedelics helped him with. Is that right?
Oh, yes. It's the programming we come with, living in certain cultures, about the religion and how you're supposed to behave. about taboo questions regarding death, even sex. I mean, people really fear to talk about certain issues because they feel the guilt.
Yeah, so I think that's a wonderful thing. I had an evangelical Christian upbringing that I feel like my work with psychedelics has helped me kind of get past some of those issues as I faced my own. I have stage 4 metastatic breast-to-bone cancer, and I've been living with it for 8 years now. And psychedelics has helped me through that process, and that's part of why I do what I do with Survivorship Collective. But so when you met Jacob, how did you meet Jacob?
Jacob was open to partner with us when we were organizing the entheomedicine events once every other month. We reached out to everybody in the media to see if they were open to be our partners. And he said yes. And so that's how we became partners, and they help us promote with their mailing list. It was a tremendous help. We couldn't do without partners. The independent newspaper is a jewel because they were so open for us to have our events promote in their pages, and it make a tremendous difference to get started an event when you have the media on your corner.
Yeah. Now, when we've been talking, it's my understanding that you were not working just with psilocybin, but in a variety of different medicines. Can you tell us more about the different medicines that you and Michael would use to work through the death process?
So we started with MDMA. We moved on to psilocybin mushroom. We went to Ashland, Oregon. We found a shaman, and we have a handshake with 5-MeO-DMT. Then we were invited to have a ceremony with ayahuasca. Everything to deal with Michael's, news about that he's terrified of dying. And so that's how we engage in different medicines in that order.
I see.
MDMA, psilocybin, 5-MeO-DMT, ayahuasca, and up to this point, I still do microdosing psilocybin, and has sparked a tremendous flurry of energy for me to do art. So I shift from working with corporate to make art, and I'm loving it. I feel like a little kid.
That's fantastic. Yeah, is there, I guess I was trying to, what more can you tell us based on the film about, are there any reactions to that, any of the scenes that you wanted to talk about? I'm not sure, maybe, I just thought you might have like a reaction to that, but let me think of another question.
How about if I ask you a question?
Okay.
Tell me about how you got involved with the collective.
Okay.
How did it come in your awareness? Because that is so important. There's a lot of organizations that support people who needs, but how do you stumble on them? How you learn about them?
Yeah, well, that was it's an interesting question. Ann Hamilton, who's here tonight, was the original founder of Survivorship Collective, and she came to me with the problem that a friend of hers who was in late-stage cancer was looking for a legal way to access psilocybin therapy to help her in the process. And to Ann's amazement, and then mine, we realized there is no entity out there that provides this bridge for cancer survivors. That is especially kind of maybe ironic given how much the cancer community has given as far as research data, and they've given their very lives and bodies to make the science that has supported the psychedelic renaissance, but yet there was no safe and legal way for them to access that. So it was because of Anne, and she came to me, and we both were like, I think we're going to have to do this ourselves, because she and I had both had powerful experiences with psilocybin and knew that it was part of our healing process. Anne is also a survivor of breast cancer.
So what's one misunderstanding or just lack of knowledge of how the organization runs and help people, that people don't understand how the process works?
Yeah, well, we would go to our website or Instagram. It's just survivorshipcollective.com, and the same on Instagram. And we have multiple retreats that are open for people to enroll in. You would do an interview with us. You would have a medical screening. You would go through coaching and some psychological counseling and screening. And you would come with a group of about 8 people to the deep woods of outside Portland in a beautiful log cabin. And over the course of 5 days, there's like a handshake ceremony with the psilocybin and then a bigger dose psilocybin. Our facilitators are licensed, the facility is licensed, and our facilitators are also indigenous wisdom keepers and multi-instrumentalists who bring an entire the ceremony to just an incredible level, and we're so lucky to work with them. So that's what it would look like. And we provide scholarships. That's really what we're doing. We raise money to help people, cancer survivors, come and do this. So it's a pay as you can, and we supplement what can't be afforded by donations.
If you had a magic wand and you were able to increase the impact of this organization to more people, how does that look like? What does it look like?
I think for Survivorship Collective, that would look like having psychedelic and plant medicine available as something that insurance would pay for, as a viable treatment option, something that doctors are trained with and know ways to get patients to this medicine, which is something Survivorship Collective, we've spoken in hospitals, we're getting the word out, and, we're there to help people get access legally to this medicine.
So how people enroll is by going to the website.
Go to the website and fill out a form. And we have a lot of new retreats rolling out this year. We're kind of here on a little mini leadership conference this weekend, and we just filled our calendar up. So we are definitely accepting applications. We do have a long wait list, I should say, but we appreciate anyone interested getting in touch. Or anyone interested in, giving funds to help someone go and get a scholarship for folks. All the information's there on our website. Thank you for asking about that.
Can you share one experience that really touched your heart deeply? One particular example where you make such a difference in that person's life that it was worth it, just the experience to get to know that person. It like has shook your foundation in terms of the experience the person had?
Well, I could say that, as someone who had been using psychedelic medicine on my own prior to looking into it as a group therapy scenario, when I tried a group therapy scenario, I was surprised, and that has an impact. It's different than doing it on your own. There was a group hive mind that almost seemed to form as we all did the medicine together, and healings, energies seemed to be passing in between us. So I was, that was the most watershed thing I've found, is that there's actually something there that I've experienced in the group aspect of taking the medicine. Yeah.
Wow.
Thanks. All right. Well, Jacob, do you think are we out of time? Are we what?
How's
Yeah. Can we do questions, Jacob? Did you have a question?
As far as late stage, how far along would you suggest doing psychedelics, and where is that cutoff? Because are you doing it when you're actively dying, or do you feel like that's its own experience for the dying process? We have medical screening, and doctors advise us on all these things, and we wouldn't want to ever put anyone in physical peril if they're really towards the end of life. But we definitely, cater to metastatic breast cancer people. People are stage 4 and have been medically cleared. That's really what it's all about. It's probably more on a case-by-case basis, but we're certainly there to help people with palliative care. And in fact, I myself am a palliative care patient. You might not think of that, someone looking hopefully lively as I do. But the fact that I'm living with this disease and working at treating it constantly, that's an aspect of palliative care. So we encourage palliative care people, and they look all different kinds of ways. I hope that answered the question.
Something that just came out of my mind is you were a lawyer, and this really shifted your career and your life purpose. So tell us a little bit about
how
100%.
this
news.
So I was working for 13 years on Wall Street doing securities litigation, and I got diagnosed with stage 4 metastatic breast and bone cancer. So I basically did a big 100%, I did a 180, and psychedelics was part of that. And my friend Anne coming to me and asking me to be part of this organization has just been a blessing and a wonderful opportunity to use my cancer for good and to try to help others in my situation. So I feel I've been totally blessed. Cancer has given me back my life, is what I say, because I'm now living it, like doing things that I'm proud of and how I want to live my life. So it's been a blessing. Thanks.
That's how Michael felt too about his cancer. Yeah, it's your teacher. It becomes your teacher. Yes.
Yeah. Thank you.
Any other question? Yes.
Here, I have a microphone here.
Yeah.
Thank you. Hi, Jackie.
Hi.
So, in Michael's treatment journey, was his or her physician made aware, speaking directly to the taboo we still hold in society, and how was that information relayed, and how did he or she facilitate a comfortable end of his life? And how can others, practitioners, incorporate that perhaps to overcome this current taboo?
Yes. So Michael did both traditional medicine, so we were supported by Santa Barbara Cancer Support Center and also Hospice of Santa Barbara. Santa Barbara have one of the most amazing organizations to go through the journey that we went through. We administer Michael a deadline to transition. His organs were failing, and we needed to have the support of Santa Barbara Hospice to move forward. The life that he was experiencing was not worth it to keep going. And Hospital Santa Barbara really helped in the process. All the people, the staff, it was amazing. Yeah. Incredible support, yeah. And we have people who also support us with the psychedelic journey in parallel. In other words, it's not like we dropped the traditional medicine to treat cancer. We still were with it. But we also went the shamanic journey to be able to live a decent life and enjoy life up to the point where his organs were failing. And we have to do the schedule for his passing. Yes, thank you for asking.
Can I do a follow-up question
Yes.
on that? Did you speak to those doctors about psychedelic medicine? What kind of response, or did you even bother to ask? Or?
Yeah, we wanted to be totally transparent, and we did reveal that we went with that we were experiencing psychedelics to get to that.
And they were supportive.
Yeah, the doctors, when they were looking, Michael, they would say, "You have cancer. You don't look like you had cancer." I mean, when you saw it in the video, he was always like that. I mean, was he, like a few days ago, I mean, before he passed, he was laughing. I mean, he was full of life. It was incredible. I credit all of it to the nutrition that we schedule for him regularly, and also psychedelics. The fact that the energy to live that he had, I credit to psychedelics.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Hey, Jaclyn. I just wanted to ask, as a partner to someone who's going through this treatment and then heading to the end of their life, do you have any experience, or I guess any insight to share, especially as someone who's here after that, with psychedelics and that experience and healing?
The fact that I met him, and the fact that I met him and journey with psychedelics because of that is worth it. Every pain and every experience that were heartbreaking, because every time you look his eyes, you knew it's temporary. That's the thing that we don't realize, people. Every time, every moment is so important to realize that it's a gift. It's a gift to be with your loved one every moment. I knew that I was looking at this man, and soon he's gonna be gone. You live every day with that awareness in your mind, and you're going crazy. It's like you go crazy, but you also have to, run a business and have a life. But I knew every time we laugh, we enjoy and cry, maybe that was the last time that I would experience that. That's a very profound question. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I'm getting the nod that this is our time to come to a close. Thank you so much for having this conversation with me. Thank you, everyone, for your attention. I really appreciate it. Have a great night. Thanks, Jaclyn. Thank you, Jacob, for having us.
You have questions for me?
Well, my daughter wants to join your whatever this is. And
and you want to understand why?
Yeah.
Many young people come here from your country. I think because maybe spiritual malaise, lost connection with nature, with the family, lost connection with the spirit. What is left? The self, identity, chasing money, pleasure, yeah? Everyone runs from pain towards the pleasure. But when they get there, only to find more pain. You cannot outrun pain.
okay. Thanks. Yeah, can I ask you one more question? What do you think happens when we die?
When we die? Great question. When you're born, you are like a single drop of water flying upward, separated from the one giant consciousness. You get older. You descend back down. You die. You land back into the water, become one with the ocean again. No more separated. No more suffering. One consciousness. Death is a happy return. Like coming home.
We love a White Lotus moment. We do. This next panel, we're going to get into some of the specifics. I know one of the questions was about, what type of molecules? Is our body physically strong enough to actually have these experiences? And we are going to be talking about some of that. So in this panel, we're going to get into, dare I say, some of the practicals, like how do you actually go about this process if you want to, potentially talk about psychedelic care for palliative care. So without further ado, I want to bring up our panelists. Come on up, everyone. Round of applause, please. Round of applause. Is this loud enough? Does that sound loud enough to you? Okay. Let me start with some introductions. Christine Caldwell, to my right here. Christine is the founder of End of Life Psychedelic Care and the co-chair of the Global Wellness Institute's Dying Well initiative. Christine is an educator and an advocate shaping safe, supported psychedelic care at the end of life. Christine, welcome. Mary Telliano is a death and soul doula. She's a trainer and host of the Anam Cara podcast. Mary is reshaping our relationship to dying, guiding individuals and families to approach death with presence, dignity, and transformation. Mary, welcome. Y'all remember John, right? John, Vasu, Seskevich. John is a meditation teacher, a bhakti yogi, and a longtime Duke University nurse clinician. John has devoted his life to helping people meet suffering and death with compassion, presence, and spiritual wisdom. John, thanks for being here. Thank you. Yes, thank you. Round of applause. All right, so let's start with the personal calling, because I think for anyone that's going to dedicate their lives to helping people at the end of their life, I think it's important for us to know what brought you to this space. Why did you feel so called to help people in their own transition? I'd love to just go down the line, starting with you, Christine.
Thanks, Kat. I think it probably started for me about 30 or so years ago when I started meditating. I'm not a regular meditator, but for anybody who does, you realize that you are more than your physical bodies. We live in this consciousness field. And then as a total layperson, I started to study quantum mechanics. It just all seemed to come together at that point. But then, of course, when I started studying psychedelics and experimenting on my own, you realize psychedelics are the portal into that consciousness. I mean, it's as clear as day for anybody who's participated or wants to participate. It is true. Along the way, I owned and operated a 250 client home healthcare agency. I really began to care about what it means to take care of adults, in this case, aging in place. So when I joined the Psychedelics Today Vital Training Program, I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. But it hit me. I'm a business person, and I brought that business skills and expertise forward, and I launched a nonprofit.
Thank you. Mary?
Yeah, my initiation into this work started very young. I died at the age of 4, and then as I grew into my early years and teens, I volunteered in convalescent homes, and I found that there was more life at the end of life, and I found it very confusing why the adults saw it such a different way. And then I began my own healing journey in my 20s, and then started facilitation in my late 20s. And then when my grandfather passed away, I found myself doing things with him that I was helping people with in journeys. I just very naturally slipped into a very facilitator role, and I left his death feeling odd because I wasn't sad. I felt complete. And I sat with that for a few weeks, and my partner at the time, we were sitting in the Whole Foods parking lot, and he looked at me in the car before we got out, and he said, hey, have you heard of becoming a death doula? Every cell in my body woke up. I never had taken a breath from the inside like that before, and I just knew that was the path. And so I started supporting people at end of life, and then all of a sudden I was facilitating and death doula, and then people started asking for that service. So the service started to come towards me, and I just, since then, have just continued to say yes. Yeah.
What did you say happened at 4?
I drowned.
Did everybody hear that? I was like, she's like, I died at 4, and then I did this, and I did that. I was like, did I miss that?
Yeah, it was a very important initiation.
I would say so. Just making sure. Didn't want to let that one go. John?
In 1972, I read a book, Be Here Now. Other people have... and Ram Dass talking with his guru about his mother, the idea was that his mother is a very high being. This is 6 months after she left her body. And Ram Dass says, well, don't you mean she was a high being? And his guru said, nay, she is a high being. And so that opened me up that this isn't the whole story, and that living is very important, but there's something before life and there's something after life. And at the time, Ram Dass put out a newsletter a couple years later, and he talked about how death in America was almost barbaric in the sense of people weren't able to talk about it. People weren't able to grieve. The whole medical system looked at death as a failure and barbaric. And I was just starting to work in hospitals as a nursing assistant and really able to be at the bedside with people. And so I brought this spiritual awareness, spiritual knowledge to the hospital working with people.
Beautiful. John, I'd like to stay with you, actually. You say that death is a teacher. And I'd like to know, how does shifting our relationship to death instead of avoiding it help reduce fear and stress?
Carlos Castaneda and Don Juan talked about death being a wise advisor. And I remember early on in my hospital experience, there was a man who came in the hospital and he had to have his esophagus kind of kept clamping down, and he had to come in the hospital and have it opened up again. And that was a very scary experience with the idea it could perforate, it could burst. And I mentioned to him this idea of death being an advisor and here to help him with that. And he took it and ran with it. And the fear went away and he was able to meet death. And Ram Dass at the time was teaching, listen and trust your heart. Listen to and trust your heart. And what I discovered with that is there's two processes. The first process is listening, acting, trusting. And the second is bringing the mind to evaluate what happened. Was our listening the best? Was our listening, was there some other voice we were listening to? And so that teaching about listening, trust the heart, just became manifest right there in the hospital. I met Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, again, one of the founders of the field of death and dying, and met her at a Ram Dass retreat, actually. And it was 5 days of silence, and Ram Dass decided to have like a talk afternoon. It was a 7-day retreat. And seeing Kubler-Ross there, I had to go up and talk to her. So I went up and talked to her and said, Dr. Kubler-Ross, what do you... And she goes, call me Elizabeth. Elizabeth, what do you think of this meditation and yoga and Eastern philosophy? And she says, well, reincarnation was in the Bible until they took it out at the Council of Constantinople in 563. I was okay. And she invited me, long story short, to attend a workshop with her. 5 days, she was the only teacher. And so the first day of the workshop, she asked people, why did you come? And there was maybe 40 people there. And, there was a minister stood up and he says, well, I'm here so I can help, my parishioners are getting more elderly and deaf, and I want to help them. And then a person spoke up, well, I'm a nurse in the hospital and there's people dying and I want to help them. And then this third woman stood up and said, I'm here because I'm pissed. My husband's dying. He's in a 4-bed unit. There's no chance to talk about it. And Elizabeth stopped her and said, oh, this is wonderful. I call my first day of the workshop the bullshit day. Everybody gives me the bullshit reason why they're here. But why you all are here are for yourself and your own inner work. And so she introduced this idea of unfinished business, things inside of us around death, loss, change that we haven't grieved or dealt with. And so invited us to do this. And so early on, getting these instructions and then being able to work with people put me on a solid path. And then I'd love to share, 50 years of this journey, the main idea I've gotten about death. And that is to live life 3 ways simultaneously. 1, I could die or be quadriplegic tomorrow. I figure God's got me for today. But tomorrow, I could die or be quadriplegic or some serious bad thing happen. The second, and so I've made my peace with that. I have a will, I've said the I'm sorries and I love yous. The second is that I could die in 2-3 years, something come along, like COVID did. COVID came in and 1 million people were dead who never thought, 2 years ago that they might be dead. But my work in the hospital over the years, asking people, did you think you'd be in Duke 6 months ago? And no. So there's that uncertainty, that fragility that has life, that something could take us out 2, 3, 4 years that we have no idea about now. The third way I'm living simultaneously is that I could live a long time, so I don't want to blow the retirement account.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I'd love to segue now really into psychedelics at the end of life. I'd like to start high level, and Mary and Christine, I'm going to direct these to you two. When someone is facing a terminal illness, how can psychedelic experiences help them approach death with more peace, more courage, just that knowing that it is what it is, right?
There's a set of intentions, I think, when you're faced with a terminal diagnosis that's different than perhaps any of us choosing to use psychedelics. However, there's a wide variety. You can start with something like just reducing debilitating anxiety. So is it facing death? Yes, in the sense that now I've got such debilitating anxiety, I can't be with my family. So you can start there. And ideally, of course, you're doing a number of different psychedelic journeys, not just one session, and your intentions might change. But then it's almost like a Maslow's hierarchy, although it's not necessarily linear. Then you can think about, yes, I want to feel this consciousness. I might even want to go over and visit the other side and see what it's like. So, you've got an opportunity. Psychedelics isn't the only way to do this, as you all would know. But psychedelics certainly is a great amplifier and accelerator. And so there's a lot of different reasons why people choose to do psychedelics toward the end of life. And what's really cool is when you get to do multiple journeys and you get to work through all of these different issues.
Beautiful. Mary, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah. When you receive a diagnosis, death has come to you without, you didn't ask. And as we all know, psychedelics is a death practice. So when you are facing that diagnosis unwillingly, and then you choose towards a death practice, there's a lot of power in that. There's a lot of courage in that. There's a lot of learning in that. And there's a lot of participation with death and what it can bring to you. There's a lot of truth in that space that gets elevated to the surface when you are forward-facing the death versus trying to run from it.
I mean, that's what is so fundamentally different about just our medical system is we don't like to talk about it. We want to just get people out of discomfort, but we're not getting into the root, whether it's before a death diagnosis and looking at depression or anxiety or any of these things. And then even at, up until this area where this is what many of the other, so many lineages that use this as a way to connect with ancestors and to basically die before you die so that you're not so afraid to move through life. I'd like to, we're going to get into some of the specifics, but I actually just want to talk about the family aspect because as we know with psychedelics, it's not just like a personal, when you're doing psychedelics, it's not just a personal thing, especially if you are somebody with a terminal diagnosis. And this is for the group. I'd like to go down the line.
End-of-life psychedelic work doesn't just impact the individual, like I mentioned, it ripples out to the family. What are the best ways to include loved ones in these journeys, whether in the preparation, the integration, or even participating in the journey themselves?
Well, I think you just answered the question. It's interesting. Families can participate in any way that they feel comfortable and in a decision-making form with the loved one. So yes, maybe just in preparation. Education, for sure. Mary will definitely say, family members can be very supportive and family members can be obstructionists. So, you've got to take that into account. And the more you can educate, then the more the family understands. But yes, they can just participate in the preparation. They can participate in a journey. You can have separate journeys and integrate together. Sometimes that's really great when the family dynamics aren't so great. So it's really customized to what that family feels is important.
Yeah, family dynamics are interesting at the end of life. I love to include the whole family if it's possible. One, because it's going to feed their grief. Once that person goes, you're always going to have this portal, this place to revisit that was healing and unified. But also, sometimes family members are not for this, and they have their own beliefs, and those beliefs are 100% true and valid, and I always like to include that into the perspective. But as a facilitator, it's always important to me, just as the facilitator question, because this person, if I'm going to do a journey and I'm having a hard time with a partner, and I want to go integrate now 2 weeks away from my partner so that I can now come to them more solidified, the dying person doesn't have that. They have their caretaker. So it's very important for their caretaker, for me as the facilitator, because I'm leaving them in these hands. Yeah. For the integration piece, to be on board and to be encouraging of this process. It's important.
I think one of the questions that I think would probably come up for a lot of us is the win. If somebody is going through stages of cancer, are they strong enough physically to go through journeys, and what molecules are best? I'm kind of jumping around on my questions right now, but MDMA might be a little harder on the body. 5-MeO could blast you off in a big amount. How do you choose? And at what strength level, and how do you even determine that?
Well, a lot depends on what, first of all, the client. So some people put it as their risk tolerance. So is an individual only wanting to do something like ketamine, which actually is a great medicine for people toward the end of life. And that medicine can be used up until just about the end of life. And Mary will speak more to MDMA and 5-MeO for sure. Psilocybin, one of the gentler medicines on the body, can be used pretty close to the end of life, depending on that individual, depending on how experienced they are. And then but there's other forms. I was thinking about, there's this study that's just starting on a psilocybin synthetic analog that's going to be a shorter journey, and it's going to reduce nausea. And it's for people toward the end of life. So
I was just thinking, psilocybin there's a lot of nausea. There could be a lot of body stuff with it, So
right. So it's really cool that they're looking at things like that. Yeah. But then there's microdosing up through until the end.
I want to just placeholder this question about microdosing and macrodosing, but first it's not on here, but it just made me think of that. But I'd love for you to actually talk about the physical aspect of when and yes.
Yeah, so the medicines that I support people with is MDMA, psilocybin, 5-MeO, DMT. And so for square one, where are they at in their diagnosis and what medications do they need to take to support themselves? Medication and physical comes first, right? Are they even qualified for these particular medicines? That's where we start. And then the emotional and spiritual and psychological things do take place. So as long as those intakes are good and we feel good about everything. MDMA, I work with people in grief. so people who have lost their loved ones to reconnect. I work with the MDMA in the treatment. I work with the microdosing, macrodosing, and full journeys in treatment as well. But as the body starts to weaken, the digestion system weakens too, and that's when 5-MeO is a beautiful medicine because it is not ingested, it comes on very quickly, it leaves very quickly, and I can, in quotations, somewhat control the dosage, and I do very low, very slow with the 5-MeO. I do not, my code of ethics is I don't make people submit to the medicine. I teach them through their own process how to surrender, and that's slow, and that's low, and it's not to force any particular thing. With the 5-MeO, it can be very abrasive, so very low, very slow, and we do multiple small rounds of low doses.
I want to address the medical screening part, though, because as we teach in our courses, and Mary, I know for sure does this, we always encourage people, the question that come up about physicians, if your own care team will not support you in it, then we have physicians that will do medical consultations, whether that be somebody like Ben Malcolm, the spirit pharmacist, or a medical physician. So always encourage you to do that before you go forward.
Oh yeah, I'm not a pharmacist. I have no idea what 90% of these medications that come up on these intake forms, and so I work directly with a pharmacist, with physicians, to qualify people to make sure that they're good. And if there's something that we're really, really not sure about, then I will encourage them to have a little deeper conversations with the pharmacist, just to make sure that we're all on the same page and feel good about the journey.
I think if I was to look at like a perfect world, the idea of like a screening of individuals to see if they're interested in psychedelic drugs. I've developed a spiritual screen, and that's real simple. Is religion or spirituality important to you? For some people it is, and some people it isn't. How about you? Which I think would flow very smoothly into, are psychedelic medicines of interest to you? I know for some it is and some it isn't. How about you? And the idea you might hear, well, I'm not interested, but my daughter's talking about it. And the idea might be a way to bring the whole family involved.
It's just a nice grounded approach so that people don't think you have to be spiritual in order for psychedelics to potentially be the answer. Or actually, I'm going to get to that question, actually, the answer. I did want to talk about, so microdosing is something that most people feel probably most comfortable with. They want to dip a toe in. But what I'm hearing about really psychedelic work is actually visionary states, states that potentially can have that ego dissolution aspect. Do you find, this must be a common question for you, can I just microdose? And you're like, well, is it about that, whatever that psychedelic experience is when you're kind of going beyond your normal waking state, if you will?
Well, the client gets to decide, and so they may want to start with microdosing and get a sense of it, and of course I could start with a low dose of a microdose, maybe bump up to 0.5 gram. That's a pretty nice ride. So it really depends on the individual, and again, it depends on their intention. Anecdotally, one of the things I love about microdosing is its neuroplasticity effect. So, anecdotally, we know that it's helping people with their cognitive processing. So for a lot of us older adults, I think it's one of the safest medicines around.
One of my questions here was about ego death, right? I think I was going to, we're like, are we going to touch on it? But we are kind of talking about these experiences of sometimes a psychedelic can create the feeling of death, right? How does an ego death experience potentially actually help address fear of death in our waking life? Does that make sense? Is that okay?
Should I tell them the story, Kat? My favorite story to tell? I think that's a good for that.
I would love for all of you to touch on this one too.
So there's a very famous story I tell, and Kat's heard it probably 1,000 times. I'd like to share with you a live story of what that looks like with one of the clients. So I was working with this woman, and as she got closer and onto hospice, and we started to work now and talk about plant medicine. She was in her late 70s, explored in her early years, and that was it. And now she was looking to reopen that because she was curious. But as the timeline got closer and closer, her fear of death, her main fear is that it would be painful to separate from her body. Pain and suffering, and that's very common. It's ground into our spell, pain and suffering must go together. I don't believe so, but so that was her fear. And that fear started to take up her whole room, her whole body, and now she's not even connecting with the ones that she's leaving, and she's very close with her family. And so here we are, we're doing this first round of the 5-MeO, and she goes in and she lays back and she goes, oh, separate, 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 separate. So she sings the word separate in all these different tones, and I'm just watching, and I'm like, okay. And so she comes out and we have a full conversation before going back in, and I let them fully ground and we process. And she said she was ready to go in, and I was like, but before you go in, can I ask you a question? You were saying the word separate in your journey last time. Can you tell me a little bit about what that was like for you? And she's, yeah, I was separate from my body, and I was floating, and I felt so good, and I had no edges to my body. And I just let her finish that too, and I said, so it didn't hurt? And I watched a twinkle in her eye, and if you've ever sat bedside with somebody and you watch the eyes changed into these diamonds, I can't explain it any other way, but I watched a spark go, and she goes, huh. And that was it. It was gone. That fear never came back up. It went with the journey, and there was a new truth, and that wasn't a truth that I could have convinced her of. No, pain and suffering don't go together. I'm alive. I have no idea what that feels like, and I'm still on this side, and I don't even know what she feels. But she got to experience the truth for herself and then be witnessed in that, and that's really what this work is about, and that's the rebrand of death, because she was able to go with more peace and love and connection versus fear and anxiety.
And I just want to add, that was the 5-MeO.
Yeah, 5-MeO.
Wow. John, did you want to add to that?
Yes, my first personal contact with Ram Dass was writing him a letter. I guess first of all, the word ego, I've had a hard time understanding what the word ego means, because different people will use the term and have different meanings to it. And then one day Ram Dass said, the ego is rarely content. Bingo. Rarely content. When I'm not content, my ego could be present. So I was having this LSD experience full of uncontentment, negativity, worry, rumination. And I was with a friend walking, and then all of a sudden, my girlfriend, who had lived 2 hours away, and I had no idea she was coming, and there she is walking up the road to me. And, I checked with my friend, am I hallucinating? And no, she was really there. And instantly, I went from that state of negativity to one of love and connection. And so when I wrote Ram Dass about this, he wrote back, if paranoid, love others, it works. So I've kind of taken that.
Oh, that's great. Did you want to add something?
Yeah, I'd like to say something about ego death. Personally, I think it's overrated. I think somebody's faced with dying. I think the biggest fear is letting go. Here you are, you're faced with letting go of everything, not just your body, not just your bodily functions, not just your loved ones, your pets, your favorite cars, whatever, letting go of everything. And it's that control that I think we as humans have a really hard time with. And this is where psychedelics are so cool, to teach you can't control it. So I think that's the beauty of psychedelic. You can't control it, you're gonna die, but going to a better place.
I think our ego is sweet. It's what's kept us here, and it's what's kept us individual. And that fight with our ego at the end, I think, is actually probably somewhat valuable. Just like the pain of trying to push a baby out. If it didn't hurt that much, that baby would be 10 years old here. So that pain, that crux, that duality is just enough to push you probably out of the body and to let go.
We'd all just be floating around out here. Yeah. We need it. All right. Let's talk about the elephant in the room, which is that psychedelics are well not that accessible, right? Like there is this underground component to it, or there's the clinical, but not a lot of people, from affording it, right? Like ketamine and whatnot can be quite expensive. They might not live in a place that's legal, which brings us to the underground. Right. And I think the bigger question is, is how do we actually prep people? What should they be asking about safely? What kind of questions should they be asking somebody who's in the underground where you're kind of like, you can't just check with the doc. Yeah. Hey, I'm going to do 5-MeO. They're like, don't? And you're like, okay, well, I'm going to ask somebody else then, So.
Well, I guess I would like to say there's not just the underground. It's actually where most of the experience happens to be. But if I just go down the list, clinical trials, yes. Amy said she's a palliative care patient. Palliative care patients affiliated with UCLA can, in fact, be eligible for a psilocybin study that's now recruiting. So there's more than at least a dozen psilocybin studies that I know about having to do in the context of end-of-life issues. Then there are churches. There are churches where a lot of people feel really comfortable. I'm going to do a panel on one that has very specific end-of-life rituals or liturgies, as they call it. And then there's Oregon and Colorado and New Mexico, and they're all a little different. So Oregon, you have to go to a licensed service center. It's really great. The Survivorship Collective funding, helping to fund the psilocybin retreats, but there's one-on-one and there's retreat opportunities in Oregon. Similarly in Colorado. Colorado's really great because they're also going to allow for in-the-home psilocybin services. And then there is New Mexico, which just recently passed a law, and end of life is one of the conditions that they will support. They are also funding. They have a funding model set up, which was extraordinary. And then there's all the decrim jurisdictions around the country. Of course, the one here in California is Santa Cruz. But there's a lot of options. And yes, to find someone in the underground, I mean, I would tell all of you go to Mary, but she's in the LA area.
As underground as they get.
As underground as it get. But obviously you have to vet this individual. I do have a directory, the only directory of its kind where the person has to be skilled in both end of life and psychedelic. Yes.
Questions to ask if you're just starting out at your road to healing and curious. Knowing somebody who's sat with a facilitator before is a wonderful way to kind of understand how they process. Understanding maybe where they get the medicine. Maybe not every facilitator is going to talk to you about exactly where, but I would just like to know the process and how you're originating this medicine. Just checking on the safety. One key word that you should always be hearing for, and no matter what, is integration. If they don't mention integration, then I would not. I would be a little red flaggy, maybe orange flaggy, but integration is the whole point. And then let's just call it what it is. There's a lot of male facilitators. If you're a woman, make sure that he has a woman assistant to be there, to be another set of eyes, and do never go into a facilitator role alone as a woman with a man, or vice versa. I don't serve men alone. So it's just making sure that they have a really good container set up for being transparent and having integrity.
In North Carolina, where I lived before moving to California, drugs were not legal at all, but ketamine was, and clinics were opening up, starting to provide ketamine services, and that could be a good start.
Especially since ketamine is really valuable in end-of-life contexts. So a small plug, so I'm going to do a practitioner's course for anybody who wants to expand or establish a ketamine practice for palliative care.
We have... I'm sorry.
I just said beautiful, wonderful.
We have about 5 minutes left. I'm trying to think, what do I want to prioritize here? I think the first thing I want to just say is, how do we bring up psychedelics without being it is the answer? How do you even start the discussion, especially with somebody who families, maybe even the patient that have never done psychedelics in their life, and you're maybe bringing, how do you even begin that process, and how do you not also push it?
I don't.
Yeah,
I don't. So I have a group of people at End of Life who don't know I serve psychedelics, and then I have a group of people that find me through podcasts and different avenues, things like this, where I'm sharing and I bring out education. But people at the End of Life are very vulnerable, and it was my deal with my higher self, with God and the medicine, to never suggest or influence or any kind of way. I trust that everybody that comes to me, we're supposed to be in this contract, because I don't do that. So there's a lot of trust that gets established through that way of ethics for me.
Not being evangelical.
Yes, exactly.
Well, I
way,
think,
not the way.
I think one of the great things of just having a nonprofit educational organization is I am blown away by the number of people who sign up for my free workshops, blown away by the people that sign up for the paid courses too. But I just did one where we screened a film, The Last Journey, a woman with cancer who has since passed, participated in a psilocybin retreat. So people want to learn about this. And so it's not like there's a real problem finding people to ask about it. Yeah, because you don't really want to push it on anybody. And that's okay. It's growing by word of mouth. You know, you heard Amy say the Survivorship Collective has a huge waiting list. You know, people want this.
I'd like to give you all a chance to just have some closing reflections that people could leave with. You know, especially if they know someone that's facing death, or if it's even just about living more fully. Take your time, couple minutes apiece, just anything that's on your heart right now that you would like to share with everyone here. And also take a moment to plug anything that you want to plug. How can people find you? How can they find that directory? You know, what's next?
Well, I could share. I have a website, Vasu, VASU.com, that has a lot of information on it, both on mind-body medicine and also the spiritual journey and the spiritual path. I'm thinking with psychedelics, the idea that people are able to bring up the subject around death is just so wonderful. Ram Dass did some teachings about the experience of death. He talked about death being like taking off a tight shoe. Another time he mentioned that death was perfectly safe. It's like jumping out of an airplane without a parachute, and there's no ground either. And so this idea of death being safe, you know, I think as a healer, to have that in your heart, it gets communicated, maybe even not so much with words, but just with feelings with the people you're with.
You can find me on my website, connectanamcara, ANAMCARA.com. And you can also see me, I'm on Amazon Prime right now in a documentary called Beyond the Grave, where we talk about maybe death isn't as real as we think it is. And just to leave with something a little bit more basic, just raising the hands, who knows the history of death in America? This is great. Great, thank you. So, wow, there. So this helped me kind of reconnect. All we have done as a species has just been forgetting what death is. So the history of death in America is quite interesting. So what war was that Abraham Lincoln, North and South, whenever that was? Thank you. So not a history buff, but with this I know. So Civil War, this is where this all kind of became alive. So what was happening was the North and the South going back and forth. The train conductors did not want to bring the bodies over anymore because they were smelling up the trains and they were getting sick. So this is where Abraham Lincoln started to employ doctors to embalm bodies. And now death became a business. And once the Civil War was done, we were a country that was grieving. So we just kind of handed it over to the business. Now 100 and something, whatever years later, we've just been disconnected from it. But we're nature, and so just like a tree that will overpower a sidewalk, we will always remember, we'll always come back to source, we'll always come back to the natural state. And that's why I think psychedelics is really helping us prompt back into that natural state, back into that remembrance. So nothing bad has happened here. We've just been disconnected to it because we forgot. And when we remember that we forgot, then we can kind of bring ourselves back to what it is and be more exposed to it. I always recommend anybody to just volunteer in a hospice, just to be around. You don't have to go through any schooling. Just to be in the room with death will change you, and it will change your family. And that's it. Just be in the room with death, witness somebody dying, witness a dead body, and be in that space, and it will change you forever.
Well, I guess I go back to education, and it starts there. So if you or anybody you know may be interested, I have this beautiful video on my website. It's on the homepage about Thomas Hartle. Thomas was the first Canadian to be approved for psilocybin therapy. Canada has a program there where they can receive psilocybin therapy. In the course of 4 years, he had 7 psilocybin journeys, and his trajectory of his explaining what happened to him as a person is really heartwarming, poignant, and it really helps anybody understand what psychedelics can do for somebody. We've got 2 of me and Mary too on there that dive into 5-MeO a little bit more as well. So if you start with education, sign up for getting announcements from me, and it's EOLPC.org, End of Life Psychedelic Care. Would love to field any questions you might have. Today was just dipped our toe, right? We didn't really get into a lot of how the different medicines can help very specifically, but there's a lot out there that we can share.
We have time for Q&A, everyone. Does anybody have a question they'd like to ask?
My question is, when you have end-of-life psychedelic treatment, do you ever try to coincide the psychedelic high and have them die at the same time?
Yeah, that is a very good question. My contract with the clients 99.99999% of the time has been, if you see the light, come on back. Come on back. That's not something I would like to facilitate, but I have had one client where everyone was on board, from the top of the house to the bottom of the house to the left to the whole family was on board with this. And this was a very psychedelic family for years before they met me, and their own journeys and their own work. So this was something that he would wanted, and we facilitated the medicine, but he came back. But that was, the agreement was I was okay with it, and if his family was okay with it. And we were in agreement, but it wasn't his time yet.
I'm really glad you asked the question. It always comes up, so yeah. Thank you. Generally speaking, the belief is death work is psychedelic. Psychedelics are death work. So, as you get closer and the veil thins, basically it becomes more of a psychedelic journey for you anyway. And everybody I've ever spoken with, and I've spoken with hundreds of facilitators now, they don't recommend it. In fact, what they recommend is the closer you get to the very end of life, you may do other things. My friend calls it death medicine. It could simply be meditation. I'm sure John would agree with that. So psychedelics, not necessarily, Aldous Huxley notwithstanding. The sort of associated question always comes up is medical aid in dying. And here it's legal in California. And people do use psychedelics, not right before they take the other medicine, but in terms of helping them come to terms with their decision to use medical aid in dying, and that I think is phenomenal. I've heard it go both ways, where people go, "Oh, I don't want it. I'm okay with my life as is," or "No, I'm good with taking the medical aid in dying." And I think that's one of the beautiful parts of it as well.
I love you.
Okay, so we came, me and my brother, we're interested because I'm reading a lot of research about its healing anxiety, PTSD, depression. I'm mostly into the psilocybin, and this is phenomenal, listening to you guys speak about death. How would we get licensed? What schools are available to get licensed to help people through the process as a therapeutic?
You want to be licensed as a facilitator?
Yes.
Okay. Well, in California, it's not legal. So, in Oregon and Colorado, you can be trained and you can become a licensed facilitator there. Many people take different types of training and then work underground, obviously. So there's a number of different training programs, and I'd be happy to talk to you about some of them offline, depending on what you wanted to do and your background. Sometimes you have to be a therapist or some kind of licensed professional, and sometimes you don't have to be a licensed professional to take the training. So lots of options, and the question becomes, how and where did you want to practice?
Is MAPS still doing training?
No, the MAPS isn't doing training, but there are MAPS approved training programs in the country. Expensive.
Are we up on time? Give it up for our panel. I just want to thank everyone also for being here and being here for this conversation. I'd like everyone to go get a drink, make a friend, but don't you go anywhere, because we're gonna have a party now, okay? We're gonna start gentle, and then we're gonna get it, all right? YOLO, baby. In this life, right? All right, cool. Thank you, guys.